in the Department of Electronics and Communication in NIT Kurukshetra. He has done his MTech and PhD from NIT Kurukshetra. He has more than 15 years of teaching experience. He has published more than 50 research papers in national and international journals. He received All India Young Scientist Award for the year 2007 for Best Research Paper in Information Technology discipline at 23rd Silver Jubilee All India Young Scientist Award competition from former President Bharat Ratna Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam at Bhopal. He is a member of national and international technical societies like IEEE, BPS, BES, and IEEE. His area of interest are optimization techniques, game theory, wireless sensor network, challenges, IoT, vertical handover issues in cognitive radios, and advanced wireless networks and challenges. I welcome you, sir, in today's session. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Rajendra Kumar for sharing his knowledge with us.
Thank you, Dr. Anila ji from Jaipur. So it's again another opportunity to talk about multi-objective optimization techniques, because earlier also at Jammu I delivered one lecture in Sri Mata Vaishno Devi. So after that, at many places I have tried to do justice on optimization technique. So before dealing with this topic again, I was asked on which topic I should give my lecture. So I thought it's the best one as far as the title of the workshop goes. Now, the second important thing in multi-objective optimization technique is the optimization technique in itself. What actually is an optimization technique? In the morning, I think today is the day one of workshop, and in the morning session I have gone through another expert's lecture available on YouTube. So he was talking about WSN, wireless sensor networks, and he has explored some of the aspects of optimization techniques pertaining to wireless sensor networks. We can talk about the challenges, some metrics, performance metrics. So, and many other speakers are also available in your STC. I found that they will be discussing on some of the very interesting topics. Now, it's already afternoon and it's very tough for the participants to sit and just be available for this workshop, that too on a digital mode. So I hope I will do some justice. I will take some examples which will definitely help you out. And I hope that this link is available at YouTube also, so that some of the other viewers can also take the advantage through YouTube channel. So I have gone through the mail there. I found that yes, YouTube link is also available. So I again appreciate the efforts of the organizers for making a wonderful arrangement, so that the topics and some of the informations could be shared across the globe. Now, coming back to multiple objective optimization technique, I would be talking about the evolution, what actually happened with optimization technique, what is optimization technique, and before talking about the optimization technique, why optimization technique. For me, always before talking about what a concept is, I would be interested in knowing why that concept is required, because that will create some amount of interest. After that only we can, or I can understand the concept. So if I'm not having the interest, there is no fun in knowing the concept. So this is how I will proceed. First of all, I will talk about why optimization. Then I will talk about the optimization, and then examples. I will be dealing with conflicting scenarios. Then after that, where it is applied, different application areas, then definitions, and of course the single objective optimization. Before talking about the multiple objective optimization, we should understand what is single objective optimization. So unfortunately, we have to first of all talk about the multiple objective optimization, and then only we can understand what is single objective optimization. It's other way around. Then definitely we'll be talking about the solutions, because we will be talking about solutions, and optimization technique is supposed to provide the solutions only, ideal best solutions. That means we are having some problems. So we'll be talking about some optimization problems, and then finally we'll be talking about some of the optimal solutions, and then Finally, we will talk about the global best or local best solutions in respect to the optimization problems. Then definitely there are many other approaches to optimization technique, evolutionary approach, bio-inspired approach. So many other OT techniques are there. So let's come to the point why we need optimization technique.
To interrupt you, so can you maximize your slides?
Okay, should I? I think
Slideshow, sir.
uh,
Slideshow.
is it okay now?
Okay, yes, yes, sir. Fine. Thank you.
Okay. So let's. I am from electronics and communication engineering domain. So I believe in IC manufacturing also. So there, suppose if you want to manufacture any IC, you require different types of materials, right? Substrate, and then the different types of layers you want to fabricate. So in that case, what kind of material combination you will go for? What kind of selections or choices you will make? So there also optimization techniques comes into picture. Then about the network selection in vertical handover algorithms. Of course, this was the second title which is listed here was my PhD topic. So in heterogeneous wireless environment, how you execute the handovers, what kind of metrics you use, and then of course the final handover which you do by migrating or switching from one network to another network or one radio access technology to any other radio access technology. So that network selection process, how it can be done. So I use some of the optical optimization techniques there. So another field of application. Then comes the node selections in WSN, YPAN, and LoRa and other networks. In today's morning session, I mean, audience have definitely gone through the concepts of wireless sensor networks, the architecture, and the basic principles of optimization structure. Like I have gone through the YouTube lecture. There, the expert was talking about the optimization problem, then the constraints, and then the design variables. Then comes the, if you talk about in general computer networks, so route selections, different type of routing algorithms, which route to follow, which is the shortest one, which is the best one, efficient one. So route selection is also there. Then different types of material combinations for mega structures like building, bridges, and this, what I would say, stream belonging to civil engineering and constructions also. There also I have helped some of my senior colleagues in making some good material combinations. That is the choices, which is the best alternative way, I mean, to form a particular kind of material. Then comes, of course, if on a lighter note, selection of bridegroom is also a very important thing, like, I mean, marriage. So there also you can chalk out this optimization algorithm and you can get a better optimal selection for that. And then definitely some simple examples like buying a house or purchasing any good, purchasing any home appliance. You can take a pencil and a paper and do some exercise and you can get a better choice. So today, in today's lecture, I would like to talk about, I mean, knowing the optimization technique, how I can execute a simple choice or how I can do a simple selection. If I am able to do that part, then okay, today's session is fine. Otherwise, yes, everywhere in all these disciplines you will find. And as far as selection or choices of friends, relatives, I mean, relatives you cannot choose, but friends you can definitely. So, I mean, even you can apply this exercise on these people and you can select, I mean, who are your optimal best friends also. So this is all on a lighter note. Upper 4 or 5 applications were from electronics and communication domain. So this is, these are the applications where you find that yes, optimization is a need and we cannot drop it. And as said earlier, that commodity purchase or appliances, TV, AC, fridge, clothes, right? Every appliance or everything is having some merits and demerits. So you can just put on a piece of paper and then finally come to a conclusion that yes, this is the ideal choice. So this is how we need optimization, and we cannot remove the things from our real world or our physical world. So what happens in case of optimization process as far as a student or as a research scholar we see? So first is a real world problem. We definitely need to pick one problem which is a real world problem. Then you have to assume some data, abstract, and You have to transform the real world problem into data sets, matrices, right? And then a mathematical model is framed. Remember, this is not a solution. This is a problem which has been represented in the mathematical format. Then we have to get the solution for the mathematical problem. We are having different types of solutions associated with different types of established mathematical models, right? So this is executed through optimization algorithm. So here comes our role. We have to design and develop an algorithm in such a manner that whatever solutions we are having which are associated with the mathematical model should be optimum, should give the optimal performance, right? Definitely you will have n number of solutions, but out of n number of solutions, not all solutions will be your ideal solutions. So how to select the best solutions out of the set of this larger set of this solution is actually the problem of optimization or designing the algorithm, right? Then finally a solution to the real world problem we will get. Now remember, this is through the interpretation. Now again, we map it to the real problem, whether it was feasible for our real problem or not. This is the channel we adopted, we followed. But after doing this much of exercise, if that particular selection of the solution or choice of the solution is not suiting the bill or is not making any sense, then what to do? Then again, you have to do some slight changes in the model. Again, you have to go through the optimization algorithm. Again, you have to select some other set of solutions. Again, interpret it in the real world phenomena. And then finally, you have to again check whether this particular solution, which you claim that is an optimal solution for the real world problem, is really making some sense or not. If it is not making, then again, third time you do this exercise, fourth time you do this exercise, and you keep on doing this exercise until and unless your solution, the optimal solution, is making some sense to the real world problem. Now, if this type of exercise is done by a human being, definitely it will be a problem because you don't know when optimal solution is about to come or after how many number of iterations I will get the solution. Maybe we land up to not the optimal solution, but up to the suboptimal solution. Sometimes this suboptimal solution also is making some significance. It is not necessary that we have to reach up to the optimal solution and only then only we will leave our problem. No, sometimes suboptimal solution also suffices. So that gives us a trade-off that, okay, after how many number of iterations, it's okay. Now I can abort this programming, I can abort this approach, and I am having some optimal solution or some suboptimal solution for the real world problem which I have taken, and definitely I can close my this business. So this is the process of optimization technique. Now the problem will come now that, okay, we need to really have a real world problem first of all. Then we have to abstract it. We have to frame a mathematical model, and after that, different types of solutions are already available. So it is the correct way of saying that solutions are available for every problem. It's only the approach by which we have to find the right solution. That's it, right? So what is a model then? A model is a
Sir, maybe your network problem. Your voice is not audible. Sir, maybe network issue. Your voice is not audible. maybe network issue. Sir is again reconnecting.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir, fine.
Sorry, it was a network failure from my side. So if you refer to my today's morning lecture, and sir was talking about some objective function. There is one function which is the function of some variables or design variables or decision variables, which are having some constraints, functional constraints, right? And they belong to some set of numbers, right? And here x1, x2, xn, these are the decision and design variables. And our aim is basically to find out those x1, x2, x3 up to xn such that it satisfies the constraints and achieve, whichever the case may be, minimum or maximum objective function value. So while dealing with the YouTube lecture, for 2 minutes I was just connected with that lecture. So somebody was asking up, and through the chat box, somebody was asking like, okay, whether it is objective function value or objective value or fitness value, whatever they were asking, it's basically the total score function or the value of the function or the cost of the function or the fitness value of the function. All these score, cost, or fitness, all are same. Nothing is different. You are having one optimization function, and whatever value you are getting for those ideal choices. You see x1, x2, xn design variables. So based on the best selected x1, x2, you will get a final value. And for different alternatives, you will have some different values. So you have to select the best one. If it's a case of minimum one, you select the minimum and select those values or attributes of those design variables. So that will come to, you will understand these things very soon. So before, this is the general format, like we are having one objective function, then we have some constraints, and then we are defining some of the design variables which belong to some real number set. Right. Now, what are the different types of optimization models? So we have two types of models. One is the stochastic one, another one is the deterministic one. Today we will be dealing with the deterministic one. Now the advantage of stochastic model is that, I mean, you can predict whatever model you are having, you can estimate some of the values of the parameters which are associated with the performance of any network or any system or any design or any layout, right? So you can estimate with certain amount of probability that this will work, this will give this much, with this much accuracy, your this algorithm or your this model will work or design will work. And the another one is the deterministic one, where you are having some data, you have performed some experiment, you have got some values. Now based on that experimental values, you have to take some decisions. Now these are also of two types. One is in discrete integer form, another one is in continuous form. So in case of both the discrete or continuous one, you will have two different types of models, linear one as well as non-linear one. So linear optimization through linear programming, non-linear optimization through non-linear programming, right? So next is we'll be dealing with discrete optimization. as compared to the continuous one, because there we have to deal with continuous functions. Then here some discrete at sample points I will take, and then we will take some examples. So definitely here in case of discrete optimization, combinatorics of graph theory, linear programming, and theory of algorithms are used to solve the optimization problems. Now, what are the different types of models? For example, a traveling salesman problem. Like a salesman has been given a bag to sell some product which he is carrying in the bag, and he has to travel from one city to another city, and in such a manner he has to travel that in less time he should cover almost all the points. So which is the optimal path he will select? Find a minimum cost tour. I mean, his cost should be minimum, and he should cover, or she should cover, the complete set of cities and should sell the products. So traveling salesman problem, a very popular problem in case of computer networks, right? Then job scheduling is another one, where how effectively we schedule to minimize the average completion time of a job. Then we have shortest path problem. In almost all the networking problems nowadays, we face this problem, like my data should travel quickly, should reach the destination node or to the destination mobile node in the shortest span of time with least cost and with maximum accuracy, maximum reliability, right? So find a shortest path from the source to the sink. Remember here, if we see this as a problem, here only one objective is achieved. What is that? A shortest path is discovered and a data is sent to the sink or the destination node. So here only one objective is addressed, that is the shortest path, right? And no other second objective is associated with this problem. Like, I mean, what about the quality? What about any other parameter? No. So that is not the objective. The sole objective or the single objective is the distance should be short between, or the route selected among a set of routes should be shortest one. That's it, right? And no quality of service has been given any due concern. Next, now scheduling problem, network designing problem, facility location problems, inventory management, and transportation problems. These are some of the issues where we can use optimized models, especially the discrete optimization techniques. Now, these are some of the other discrete optimization techniques: minimum spanning tree problem, shortest path problem. I mean, these are the list of the problems where optimization technique is developed. Minimum cost flow problem, assignment problems. And then the solution for this through the discrete optimization problems: integer programming, network algorithms, dynamic programming, approximation algorithms. These are some of the approaches to get the solution, right, for discrete optimization problems. Next, remember, it's a very, very big field which is applied to different domains of engineering and sciences, right? But here my aim is to focus on some particular topic, that is how I can finally get a choice or a solution, right, for a simple problem which I'm having with me. It's not necessarily a technical one, it could be a non-technical one, but with a piece of paper and a pen, I should be able to chalk out the solution. I should get the optimal solution. So that is the sole objective of learning in today's session. So after this session, you will be able to do some good selections. That is the objective. Now, next is difficulties with the classical multiple objective optimization techniques. We will deal. We'll talk for some time, 1 or 2 minutes. That's it. And then multiple objective evolutionary algorithms. I have gone through the schedule and I have seen that another expert is available who will be talking at length on the evolutionary algorithms. So I will not be dealing with this one. And then definitely, let's come to the point. As far as the classification is concerned, I will definitely address here non-Pareto techniques, Pareto techniques, recent approaches, and bio-inspired approaches. These are the broader classifications of evolutionary multi-objective optimization. domain. Right now, here you will find that some Pareto and this thing is there. So what is this Pareto optimal front? So this Pareto optimal front, if you talk about the optimization problem, you basically transform your optimization problem into a mathematical model, and that mathematical model is again with the help of graph theory you can understand. So through a graph theory, if you want to understand, then you will have that, okay, you are having two objective functions or maybe more than two objective functions, and you have to optimize it with respect to some constraints. Then how with the help of a graph theory, you can visualize the problem, right? So, and very wonderful insight has been given by Alfredo Pareto. So this particular Pareto optimal front has been named after Vilfredo Pareto, and he was basically an Italian economist, and he developed this approach of understanding the optimization problems in 1906. So whatever concept we are right now sharing or learning is basically roughly 114 years old, but it still exists, and through the graph theory you can solve many optimization problems. Let it be those functions be a convex one or a non-convex one, right? So a different set of functions you basically come across while developing the mathematical model, and from there you can hit and solve the optimization problems. Now a set of trade-off optimal solutions instead of one optimal solution, generally known as Pareto optimal solutions, is shown through Pareto optimal front, right? So you remember, whenever we talk about selections, it's not only the one objective function or not one criteria is used. Instead, in real world problem, we definitely have two or more than two criteria to finally decide the selection of any design or of any choice, right? So when you are having two different objectives to achieve and you are doing the exercise of selection or choices, then there comes optimization. You see, is the optimization of different objective functions at the same time, thus at the end of the algorithm, return n different optimal values, which is different to return one value in a normal optimization problem. Well, I was talking about objective functions and there about the solutions. So before talking about the optimization problem, we should first of all concentrate on the graph theory. What is happening in case of a graph? If we are having two different criteria, what is happening, right? So let me quickly jump to the problem, and from this we will start. Let's take a case here. Our interest is, we are searching a car, right? We will take a car design example, right? An engineer is supposed to design a car, and his objectives right now are two in number. They are not many, they are two in number. One is the cost of designing the car or making the car, and second is the accident rate or the safety. How much safe or how much less that car is prone to accidents, right? These are the two concerns, cost and safety. Now safety has been addressed in different manner, and it's considered as accident rate. Now these are the two objective functions. One is the cost function. Cost means the real cost of making the car, and the accident rate, that is how much safe it is. So if suppose you are having a cheaper car, then definitely there is one manufacturer, say A, he has manufactured a car or designed a car which is very cheap, or I would say very economic, but at the same time you will find that it is not safe. It is having higher accident rates. Whereas in case of company C or engineer C, C is the engineer who has designed a car in such a manner that its accident rate is very less as compared to the engineer who has designed, say, engineer A. So, but At the same time, it is very costly. Now there are some other engineers also who are in the market. They have floated their designs. Engineer D, Engineer B, or Company D, Company B. Company B is having some lesser cost, but lesser cost is also there, and accident rate is also very less. So definitely you will find that in this graph you are having different companies or engineers who are placing their designs. Now see these two dots. Say I hope you are able to locate my arrow on the slide, right? So here it is A, D, B, C, and there are two other dots. These are also some of the companies, but you will find that definitely it is having a taking less amount of expenditure. That is, it is economic as compared to C, right? And its accident rate is also less, but still it is not near this particular curve. So how this curve is actually coming? This curve actually is the curve which is coming because of the true competitors. I am Rajendra Kumar and I have decided to design a car. Say my car, my designing, say this plus one, this particular icon, just you locate here where my arrow is, where I am able to show my arrow. There you will find that yes, I am a company who is very expensive, right? I have designed a car which is very expensive, almost close to C, and is also having a very high accident rate. It is least safe. So will I be able to survive in the market? No. So if any design is coming which is in this form, although so likewise many other points will come in this graph. That is, so many other designs are also available, right? They will propose, they will come in the market, but they won't survive because it's, I mean, very stupid kind of thing, isn't it? It's a costly as well as it is very prone to accidents. So nobody will purchase this type of vehicle or this type of design. Nobody will like. So it will automatically out of the competition. So all those which are near this particular curve will be the tentative set of solutions or designs which will be preferred by the public, or they are having the possibility of being sold out by these companies, right? So here, whenever we talk about an optimization problem where two different functions are there, then there our aim is to search the good solutions, right? So this is one way, and the best optimal solution you will find near these curves. All these competitors you will find here through, I mean, on this curve. So whatever this curve you are having is called as Pareto optimal front. This curve or this front is carrying the optimal solution. Now, if any other point is there, which is definitely in the search space, but it is very away from this optimal front, then that particular point will not be considered as a optimal solution. That will be maybe a suboptimal solution, and definitely it will not be an optimal solution, right? Now here you see accident rate. We want that our design should have minimum accident rate. Our accident rate should be minimum, and our cost function, that is the expenses for making that particular car, should also be very less. So we want a car which should have minimum cost and minimum accident rates. So here the two objective functions, that is cost and accidental rate, both are to be minimized. Both the functions have to be minimized, and they have been plotted on a graph, and we have seen that how a Pareto optimal front is observed. Now you see, you won't get any point below this curve. Say for example this point, definitely there might be an engineer or a design which comes into picture, and he says, okay, with this much of price I can provide you the least accident rate based car. So that is an hopeless situation. I mean, it's not feasible. It's not a feasible solution. Your all feasible possible solutions will be near the curve and not away from the curve. They are illogical solutions in imaginations, right? And non-practical solutions. So Pareto optimal front actually helps us to provide an idea or insight, I mean, how feasible solutions can be obtained, or where you are having the possibility of having the optimal solutions. And out of those optimal solutions, you might discover any particular solution which is the global best solution, or maybe for a particular situation it could be a local best solution. So this is how global best, local best, or optimal solutions are addressed. Now see another example. Now I am talking about something else. Earlier I was talking about safety. Now parameter is changed. Now my objective is cost of the vehicle, and next is the comfort of the vehicle. Now if you see, in last case it was minimum and minimum. Both the objective functions were supposed to be minimized. Here these two functions are there, and you know that if you need more comfort, then definitely your cost or price of the car will increase. So ideally what you want? Ideally you want your comfort to be maximum and your cost to be minimum. So these are the two functions which are conflicting to each other. It's a scenario, it's a conflicting scenario where you have selected two objective functions, or I would say the problem is same. You have to design a car in such a manner that that car should be comfortable. You should have maximum comfort with that car, and second objective is that its cost should be minimum. So these two objectives are contradictory to each other. They are conflicting to each other. So these two objective functions, one is to be maximized and another is to be minimized. In earlier case, both the functions were to be minimized, and you are having a lower curve. Now here you are having a upper curve like this, right? You see 1, A, B, C, and 2, right? In between you will find a curve and definitely see another dot. There is one another dot which states that yes, I can also design a car with this much of comfort, but cost of my vehicle will be around 100K. So do you think that this particular designed car or this company will survive in market? No, because there are other car or other companies which are at the same comfort level. They are designed in very, I mean, their cost is very less and their comfort level is same. So these type of non-feasible solutions or impractical suggestions or designs won't be available. Although they are the solutions, there might be some other feature associated with this type of car. It is less having less comfort, it is having some more cost, but some other advantage this car might be having. But right now, for the selection of this car, we have considered only these two criteria. If we take any other third criteria because of which the price of this car is very high, and it is not being told right now here, because that third criteria is not being considered for selection. If you consider that also, then definitely this might be one of the optimal solution. But in that case, third function will also come into picture, and we have to take all these three functions as three different objective functions. So gradually you are entering in the multi-objective functions. You have to deal with multiple objective functions for the selection or the choices. Right now we are dealing only with the 2-1, right? So here, this is the special case where we have to minimize and maximize these two objective functions, and you found one Pareto optimal front. All the feasible solutions will be below this optimal curve. Somebody says that I am having 100% of this thing comfort level, right? And my cost is very less. So might be he is fooling you. If there is any company which says that no, all the comforts which this car 2 is having, I will also be providing you, and that too at the cost of 10K, then probably some cheating kind of thing is happening. So through the Pareto optimal front or some misguide kind of business is going on. So through this, you can understand that, okay, a Pareto optimal front actually gives a check, okay, whatever solution or choice you are having is not the optimal one, remember. And if it is close to the curve, okay, done. So through this graph theory also, we get an insight, and this Wilfredo Pareto optimal front is the most popular one. If you are really getting inside the mathematical objective functions and then fighting with two or more than two mathematical functions and dealing with them on the graph theory sheet, then you will come across a wonderful solution for different types of curves, right? So right now the special case, like, I mean, if we are having two objective functions, can we say that it's a multi-objective function? Yes. Any optimization problem which is having more than two, I mean, two or more than two objective functions in the problem, then that particular problem becomes a multi-objective optimization problem. Now you see, likewise, you will find that, say for example, two objective functions, say f1 and f2, you are having different feasible solutions, and all the feasible solutions are available on this search space, right? And in this search space, you see here, the curve which we have just now seen is something like this. So it's a minimum maximum problem. Cost was to be minimized and comfort was to be maximized. So it's a min max problem, and you will have your curve right here, right? And if you talk about search space, same search space, if you are having two objective functions, two criteria for the selection of choices, then you will have a Pareto optimal front this side, and for max minimum problem, Pareto optimal front this side, and this yellow colored is towards the origin. So you will have, say, minimum. What that means? You want your cost to this f1 function to be minimum, and the value of f2 should also be minimum. So the best solution you will get, that will be towards this side, that is towards the origin. Here you will get the best solutions or choices towards the area which is just opposite to the origin, and here on this side you will have the best optimal solution. So through a graph theory you can understand, okay, where your best optimal solutions will be available, right? And now every time you won't have any very smooth or beautiful curves, right? You will have some irregular shapes also, and there also you can have your these two different types of conflicting scenarios or maybe non-conflicting scenarios, and you can have different solutions, right? So by making the intersection of these solution sets, you can have a wonderful set of choices which becomes the best optimal solution for that particular problem. So it's an insight. Now there are different types of techniques. So suppose if you're dealing with two objective functions, so somebody maybe it's a subjective kind of thing, like, okay, I will give some weightage to this objective function or this criteria and less weightage to this criteria number 2 or objective function number 2. So based on the different types of proportion of the weight, your selection you can change, right? Somebody is interested in giving more weightage to safety, whereas somebody is interested in giving more weightage to the cost, right? So by that also your set of optimal solution changes, right? So different people have suggested, right, some approaches by which you can handle the situation. Now there are certain issues associated with this classical objective optimization problem. What is that? First is the weighted sum. All the time the weight which you calculate, how much you are sure that the weight which you have assigned to a particular objective function is correct or is authentic or is good, because it's a human based judgment, right? And it could be through some experienced people, and if it is through some certain experienced people, then definitely the solutions which you will get will be very good. But if it is through a non-experienced one, then God knows what optimal solution is going to do. So it all depends upon weight, how you have assigned the weight, how you have calculated the weight. It's not only two objective functions. You might have 10 objective functions and you have to assign different weights to the objective functions, and then you have to calculate. Or what to do then? If you are having two or more than two objective functions, then how to deal with this type of problem, right? So we will come to that part. We will take one example and then we will move ahead. It could be a bridegroom selection or whatever. So next is repeat many times to find the multiple optimal solutions. The second problem is that if you are not having good optimal solutions, if you found that the optimal solutions which you achieved after these assigning these weights, then what do you have to do? You have to again repeat the exercise, change the weights, and then again get the optimal solutions. So this type of exercise you have to keep on doing until and unless you get the final solution. Some are sensitive to the shape of the Pareto optimal front and some are not. So if you are dealing with the non-convex functions, remember I am talking about objective functions. Those are basically the functions which can be transformed into a mathematical function, and those mathematical functions which are convex in nature, for those functions definitely you will have global best solutions. But all the rest of the non-convex functions, you will have some problem. So what we do, we deal with those non-convex functions in a different manner. We do relaxation, we convert or transform the non-convex function, change some constraint limits, and we transform or change forcefully the non-convex function into a convex function, and then we deal and get our optimal solution. So this is the mathematical exercise of getting dealing with the convex or non-convex problem. Then, so this is the problem associated with the classical multiple objective problems. Then efficiency is also one of the criteria. It's not reliable as far as uncertainty, or when stochastic modules are incorporated. Then it's not efficient when you talk about the discrete search space, because if you're dealing with continuous functions, then with certain amount of probability you can say that okay, it will be applicable to the complete set of real numbers or the complete domain, right? You will get the range according to the complete domain. But here, if it's a discrete case, it's difficult to claim. Now, another approach, lexicographic ordering. So need not to talk much about that. Again, ranking is done for the different alternatives and selection is done. So what basically we have to do, you see, our multiple objective optimization problem is something like we are having F1, F2, and Fn, right? And we are having we are supposed to minimize or maximize different criteria subject to constraints. Then we have a multiple objective optimizer which deals with this mathematical modeling, and then through a certain trade-off we get the optimal solutions. We again transform it and we see that if it suits the bill. If it doesn't suit the bill, we again repeat the exercise. Remember the earlier schematic, the first schematic in which we have completely discussed the optimization process. Now, evolutionary algorithms, there are some advantages. It deals simultaneously with a set of possible solutions, enable of finding several members of the Pareto optimal sets, explore solutions over the entire search space, less susceptible to shape or continuity of the Pareto optimal front. So when you are dealing with evolutionary algorithms, then you are getting rid of this shape of the continuity of the Pareto optimal front. Continuity of the Pareto optimal front means you may deal with some of the discontinuous functions, and even in that case also you can get some solutions, right? It's not necessary that it should be a continuous connected one. Now, disadvantage, not completely supported theoretically. You see, a lot of approximations are needed in this. So theoretically, you cannot every time get support. Now, this was all about Pareto optimal front. I hope you have understood the significance of Pareto optimal front, right? Now, we will talk about the concept of multiple objective optimization problem. So I hope this is done here. 50% is done now, 50% is left out. So just if you are having some pencil or paper, you can at the same time you can write somewhere, or these PPTs also will be made available to you. And so let's talk about the single objective optimization problem. Interestingly, the method of scalarizing an objective vector into a single composite objective function converts the multiple objective optimization problem into a single objective optimization problem. So the first way of dealing with the multiple objective optimization problem, or a problem with two or more than two criteria, if you are dealing with a selection or a choice where you are having two or more than two criteria, then what you can do, you can transform that particular two or more than two objectives into one optimization problem. You can transform your MOO into an SOO, single objective optimization problem, right? So by doing that, you are having a single optimization problem, and it's quite simple to handle a single objective optimization problem. So the first way is, I mean, how simply you can handle a multiple objective optimization problem, and then later on gradually you will see that different you do some tricks, you transform your techniques, and you will see that in a different manner you can handle the multiple objective optimization problem. So there is a myth like, I mean, do we really have any single objective optimization problem? So yes, of course, we are not having any single objective optimization problem, because if you are having only one objective, then there is no need to go for the optimization. Remember, I mean, if you want to purchase a cheaper mobile phone, okay, go and purchase. There is no problem, right? Whichever is the cheapest one, you go in the market and purchase it. You are having only one criteria, that the cheapest mobile should be picked up from the market. Now the thing is, like, if you are having two objectives, then picture comes into mind, like, okay, optimization, what to do now, because now I am having two objectives. One is the quality. Cheaper phone will not give me the good quality, right? So just moment you talked about a mobile phone, a gadget with two criteria, you are pushed back. Okay, wait, now you have to do some exercise only, then you can purchase the phone. Now if suppose you are having three criteria, the size of the phone, the price of the phone, and the quality of the phone, then again a headache. I mean, it's a typical problem where you are having three objectives. How to handle it? Now somebody will come and say that no, it should be not only the size, it should be the shape also. Now the fourth criteria is also coming: price, size, then quality, and then the shape. I mean, it should be handy, wearable. Like, I mean, I can hold it here or in hand, or maybe its size should be so small that I need not to carry it. The shape is also the another criteria. So like, you will find that, okay, then to search that particular phone in this set of designs of phone is a very complex problem, right? So let's talk about some multiple objective problems, how to transform them into single objective optimization problem, and then finally get a solution. So the best part is, like, if I'm having four different parameters or criterias or objective functions, F1, F2, F3, and F4, then let me put some weights. I will give this much weightage to, say, 0.2 weightage to this one, 0.4 weightage to this one, and then 0.1 and then 0.1, something like this. And I should get the total weightage as 1. And then finally, let me solve that problem. How to solve it? So the simplest way is like this. Now, so again, to deal with this, first of all, methodology is that identify the design selection attributes. Now, whatever selection or choice you want to design, you must have some attributes. Clarity in mind that, okay, these should be my design attributes. Then shortlist the design systems on the basis of the identified attributes. Shortlist it, right? Then quantitatively or qualitatively assign some values or ranges, right, to those attributes: good, bad, poor, worst, average, something like that it is there. So assign some numerics, some data, and then finally get a mathematical framework. right? So what I was saying is this. Suppose let's make our problem very simple. Let's take only two objective functions, f1 and f2. Now here I will assign some weightage w1 to f1 objective function and then some weightage to function 2. And now in this manner I have transformed my this multiple objective. I was having two objective functions, but I have transformed it into a one optimization problem, and its fitness function I will compute later on, not now. Now see, consider this problem of minimizing the response time and maximizing the throughput. And the problem is something like node selection. I am selecting a node in such a manner. Let's talk about a wireless sensor network where you are talking about a wireless sensor node. You have to select that node, whether that node will participate in my network or not. So that all depends upon the two values. I am having so many nodes, say 100 nodes I am having. Now which particular node will be accommodated in my this selected network, because I need a node through which my response time is less and I am getting the maximum throughput, right? So for example, these are the two criteria I am considering. So here f1x is the response time and f2 is the throughput time. Weightage is the w1 and w2 associated with the two functions. And now the problem is like what to assign values for w1 and w2. So because based on these weights, the fitness value will give different values, right? So it's a problem. It's a very tough problem of knowing the weights. So we need to go through some technique through which, now see, this is basically simple additive weighing methodology. This type of optimization problem or the solution to optimization problem is through the SAW method. The method by which you solve this type of optimization problem is called as SAW. That is simple additive weighing. Assign weights, add them, and then simply get the value of the fitness function. This is the most simplest one. Now see how much calculation is associated with this most simplest additive weighing algorithm, dealing with only two attributes. So for any kind of optimization problem, first of all, you require to design a matrix where you will have attributes and the choices. Out of these choices, you have to select any one choice which will suit the bill, and that will become the optimal solution. And attributes in columns, like what are the values associated with that type of choice. Now alternatives are placed in rows, attributes are placed in column, and consider this matrix as A1. Now identify which is the beneficiary matrix and which is the non-beneficiary, not the matrix, sorry, the beneficiary attribute and non-beneficiary attribute. That is, which particular attribute or objective function you want to maximize and which particular attribute or objective function you want to minimize. You have to identify this thing first. Then, since you know very well that that matrix will be having some random value because all the attributes have different units, so you have to normalize it. And after normalizing, you will get a decision matrix, right? A normalized decision matrix you will get, because the decision will be based on this normalized matrix, right? Now comes the preference or weightage among attributes in terms of relative importance. Now the second important exercise, as said earlier, that it is very difficult to assign the weights. At slide number 37, we have seen that yes, it was so simple, but what to assign W1 and W2. So for that also we will do some mathematical exercise. Here what we will do, we will first of all talk about the relative importance in this normalized decision matrix. So we will develop some kind of relationship between the attributes, right? Construct a pairwise comparison matrix using a scale of relative importance. So suppose if you are having, say, in your design problem, you are having two objectives or two criteria, then you will have a relative importance matrix of 2 by 2. It will always be a square matrix. If you are having 5 design variables, right, then you will have a relative importance matrix of 5 attributes. One attribute, how much importance you are giving this one attribute to in respect to the attribute 2, or how your that attribute 2 is related to this attribute 1. So this is how relative importance pairwise comparison matrix is computed. Then afterwards, using the Sati table available in one literature based which is actually titled as analytical hierarchy process. There is one scientist, mathematician rather, Sati. He has given one table. Depending upon the order of this comparison matrix, you refer and then you get some value. That value is nothing but consistency, is used to calculate the consistency of the ratio. In general, while designing, we take 3, 5, 7, 9 as the number of design variables and not in even number. But you can deal with the even numbers also, but it is better to deal with the odd numbers, right? Who has said this thing? Nobody has said this thing. Even you can take and you can exercise it, but it's better. Sati has given contributed a lot in this particular domain, has said that okay, if you take odd numbers, then odd number of attribute will definitely give you some good results. Why? Because if you are having say 6 or 8 or 10, then probably 50-50. You know, 3 parameters. Says if I am having 6 criteria, 3 criteria will definitely come in just in front of the another 3 criteria. Maybe that kind of reason is there, but weights are also there. But sometimes weights also not do the justice, and we are plugged somewhere. So it's better to deal with the odd number of attributes. So assume m attributes. So you will be having a pairwise comparison matrix of m by m. Through some mathematical exercise, you will assign some relative importance. So suppose if A is related to B, that is if parameter, say I am having 5 parameters, A, B, C, D, E. Now A is 3 times more important as compared to C. So I would say C is 3 times less important to A. So this is how a comparative importance is created. Now, if suppose I am unable to assign some values to my experiment, then definitely I will give some fuzzy values. So you might have gone through some fuzzy logic system, fuzzy systems, neuro systems, neuro fuzzy systems. Here in this case, you need not to deal with the fuzzy system, right? Need not to fuzzyfy the model, which is already a complex one, right? So I'm not saying that you don't deal with fuzzy systems, but definitely I would like to keep this fuzziness or fuzzification of this model. I won't recommend, because it's already a complex one, and I am interested in knowing simply the best solution without wasting any time. With less complexity, I should get it, right? Now, then after that, you remember that we have generated one relative importance matrix, and after that, geometric mean is calculated. And this is through the analytical hierarchy process. Remember, we are dealing with multiple objective problems, and one method we are discussing right now, right? It's the most popular one. You will find the literature for it, but to understand and grab it, it's a complicated one. Once you get this thing, then you can map this thing with the Pareto optimal front. You can deal with the convex functions also, and you can compare these 3-4 algorithms, and you can get some publications, right? Now, because of its simplicity and easiness to find out the maximum eigenvalue, here you have to calculate the eigenvalue also, and you have to check the inconsistency also. This exercise we are doing just to calculate the weights. Remember one problem, that we don't know how much weight to assign, right? So that is through the heuristic approach, right? After dealing or talking to some experts, you will come to know that, okay, one attribute, this attribute is having 3 times more importance as compared to that one, or that is less important to this one. So likewise, you will prepare a comparative relative importance matrix, and geometric mean you will calculate through some technique, and afterwards you will get the weights. So geometric mean for a jth attribute will be taken in this manner, mth root of the product of these attributes, right? In a closure form, it is available here. After taking the geometric mean from the relative importance matrix, we will get the weights. So this will be the final weight which will be assigned to jth attribute. Suppose I am having j number of attributes, so to the j attributes, I will have w1, w2, w3 up to j attributes. So this is how I will get the weight. Now, so eigenvalue calculation is done. So remember, we are dealing with a matrix, and this is how we will be calculating the lambda max. And lambda max, for that you have to refer the Sardis table, and from the Sardis table you will have lambda max minus m divided by m minus 1. So now how this is coming, how this consistency index is there, we have to actually calculate the consistency index CI, which is based on the lambda max value, right? Now this consistency index will be helpful in knowing the consistency ratio. Once you calculate this consistency ratio, and if this ratio is less than 0.1, if this CR is less than 0.1, then definitely whatever exercise till now you have done is good, correct. Although it seems to you like it's a complex one, definitely, but this method is appreciable. Whatever weights you have calculated through this procedure are okay and will definitely give you a good choice, right? But if your consistency ratio is not less than 0.1, then what you have to do? You have to again revisit relative importance matrix, change the relations. And it's not 3 times better than that, it's actually 2 times better than that, and do that exercise, and then again get the geometric mean, weights, and then you will again check the CR. If it is coming less than 0.1, done. This time, second time it is done. Otherwise, keep on doing this exercise, and you will come up to one good combination of relative importance parameters, and you will come up to some good weights which will help you to give the best choice, which is a very simplest task later on. So the selection index provides managerial implications to a decision maker. So if you check this consistency ratio, then your algorithm will consistently perform best, right? Now let's take one example. Now remember, likewise, simple additive weighing is there, multiplicative exponential weighing is there, weighted product method is there. So likewise, we are having different schemes. Now once you get the weights which you have checked that okay, it is giving a good consistency ratio, just you straight away assign in the optimization function, multiply your weights with the corresponding value which you are having, get the complete score function, compare the score function which is giving you the best minimum score function is the best one if it's a minimized problem. If your single objective optimization problem is a maximized one, then whichever score function is the maximum one, you rank it on the top, and that becomes the best optimal solution. So let's take an example quickly. Here you will come to know in another 5 minutes time, I will tell you what actually we have achieved till now. Say for example, total production, there is one factory which is manufacturing some ICs, right? One simple example. And here the idea is that the ICs, when you are making the IC, the total production cost should be minimum. To make that IC, the cost associated with that IC should be minimum. Next, chip space. Whatever IC you are making and whatever chips or gates you are actually fabricating on that chip, right? That space should be also very less. It should occupy less space, right? So some cubic meters, right? S. Then number of ICs. So in a given substrate, you want to fix some number of ICs. One hardware you want to finally frame, fabricate, design, prepare, on which these ICs you want, multiple ICs you want. So you want to maximize in a given space, you want to maximize more number of ICs, right? And then finally, how many number of units per minute you are able to produce production. That is, you want to maximize. So whatever design you are suggesting, whatever system you are designing, finally you should have a production which should be very production rate should be high. That is, number of units per minute which are produced by a machine or by a factory should be maximized. Now here comes some teams, engineers or R&D teams, they have suggested one algorithm. Based on that algorithm, they have suggested their design. There is one system one which has produced this much of which is actually costing this much of money and using this much of space and can accommodate 3 ICs and can produce 5,500 units per minute. This is one team which has suggested that in this manner we can do the business. There is another team which says in this manner they have made some arrangements, they have made some architectural development, and they have come with this problem with some solution, and they say that if you take our solution or approach or methodology, you will get this much, right? Likewise, you are having 10 different choices. Now the problem is which particular choice you should go with. These are the alternatives. These are the alternatives. The first column, 10 alternatives. My best optimal solution will be actually from these 10 alternatives. Maybe sixth one is the best one or second one is the best one. I don't know. I have to first of all go through the mathematical exercise and then finally I will get the best solution, right? Now, if you talk about independently, these are the criteria, objective functions, right? Criteria 1, criteria 2, criteria 3, criteria 4, right? All the 10 alternatives are following these criteria, right? And here the first attribute is the total production, which is to be minimized. This objective function is to be minimized. C is to be minimized. S is to be minimized. IC is to be maximized, and production should be maximized. So there are two objective functions which are to be minimized and two objective functions to be maximized. Now, let's talk about the first criteria, because these are having different units. Our first aim is to normalize this complete matrix. So how we do the normalization? First of all, we will take the best value. Say this is the attribute total production cost. Cost should be minimum. So here, which is the best value in the first column? Best value will be the minimum. So this particular value is the minimum one. I hope you are able to locate my arrow, right? So this value is the minimum one. So this is the best value. So what I will do, I will divide this value by this, and rest of the values will be less than 1. So all other values will be divided by 486970. So if you divide this value by this value, this will become 1, and rest of the other values will be less than 1, right? See this one. This value becomes 1 and rest of the other values becomes less than 1. Now come back. Now this is the second criteria. Second criteria is to minimize. So which is the minimum value? 45.71. Can I take any other value? Say 49.73? No, I cannot take this one. Why? Because I will pick that value which is having the minimum value. So this is the minimum value. So what I will do? I will divide this value by itself. So that will give me 1, right? And rest of the other values will be less than 1. So this is how I am getting normalized column. Second column is also normalized. Third, now it's a special case. Why? Because now it's a maximization problem. Here the best value is the maximum value, right? So here the maximum value is 3. So you divide 3 by 3, and then rest other values will be less than 1. Here numerator will become denominator, and denominator will become numerator. Remember, these 3 will come. What? These 3 will come in the, this is the minimum value, right? Which will come in the, where it will come? If you want this thing to be less than 1, then it should be 3 by 4. Sorry. 3 by 3, 3 by 3, 3 by 3, 3 by 3, 3 by 3. So all is 1 and rest is 3 by 4. So less than 1, right? And then finally, this is there where production unit is to be maximized. So which is the maximum value here? 6400 divided by 6400, right? And rest of the other also divided by 6400. So you will get 1 and rest of the other values as the less than 1. If anybody is having any problem, they can just ask me later on after the session. I can help you out in re-explaining the things, right? And this is how you will be getting a normalized matrix. Earlier you were having this as the actual data matrix. Now remember, this is a data matrix based on which your decision is made. So this is the decision matrix, right? Now how this type of table you can get? You can get this type of table by using some simulators also. Say you are designing some scenario of say IoT, WSN or any of the GSM network on a simulator. On a simulator you have designed, right? And then you are calculating throughput, jitter, available end-to-end delay, right? All these are the attributes. So these you will get, and just you change your scenario. You change your topology, topology 1, topology 2, topology 3. You can change your scenarios in simulator, right? You can have 10 different configurations and you are having different performances, right? For running every scenario, you will have some related corresponding performance. Now different configurations of scenarios will give you different performances. Now the problem is which particular configuration should be the best one. So a measurement table has been prepared using a simulator. Now I will transform this measurement table into a matrix. Already a table is a matrix. Now I will apply the mathematical process to this table, and I can suggest that this particular configuration will be the best one with which you can go and is the optimal design or the optimal layout. So this is for the communication or networking purpose. Right now, here I'm talking about it. Industry, suppose using some concepts, some metallurgy concepts, or some combination of materials, you can have different choices. And based on that, this table has been prepared. So quickly, I have to transform it into a normalized matrix. It's done. So the best value is assigned 1, 1, 1, and 1, right? Then what I will do, I will prepare a relative importance matrix. Say, it's a square matrix. CSIP I will write like this, and I will write CSIP like this. Done. Now C is related to C, same. S is related to S, yes. C in itself, C is how much importance is having how much importance to itself? Full importance, 1. S with S, 1. I with I, 1. P with P, 1. Done. Now, for example, another thing. Now C is having 3 times more importance, relative importance than S. C is 3 times more important than S. It means S is 3 times less important than C. It's quite simple, isn't it? Now take any other one, P and I. Suppose P is 3 times important than I. If P is 3 times more important than I, then I is 3 times less important than P. It's inversely related, isn't it? It's 3 times than that. Then if it is given more weightage or more importance, 3 times more importance should be given to P as compared to I, then I should be given 3 times less importance as compared to P. It's something like reciprocal relation. And this is how we get a square matrix. So a relation has to be developed in between the attributes, right? Because these are the design attributes. Now, what we will do? We will take the geometric mean. How geometric mean is calculated? What you will do? You will multiply 1, 3, 4, 2. First row. Then first row multiply all the elements and take the 4th root of the product of these two. Remember this relation I have told you somewhere. Product of first row you select, multiply all the elements of the first row and take the mth root, you will get the particular geometric mean, right? So again, this is done here. We have multiplied all the values. Fourth root I have taken and I got this much. Likewise, for the second row, I am doing the exercise. For the third, I will get one value. For the fourth one, I will get one value. Likewise, I will get these geometric means. Now what I will do? Now I will take the total. Total means what? I will add all these values. I will get 4.7, right? Now I will calculate the weight. How to calculate the weight? Weight means this divide by this divide by the total, this divide by the total, and this divide by the total. I will get this as the value. These are the weights. Now I have to check the consistency. For consistency, again, remember these weights, what I have to do? I have to take the transpose, I have to calculate the lambda max eigenvalue. And then these weights here, lambda max means, and lambda max minus m. M is the order. M is the order of the matrix. So order of the matrix means what? How many number of attributes you are having? I am having 4 attributes. The value of m will be 4. So just you place this minus in the relation lambda max minus 1 divided by the 4, right? And you will get this value. And then later on, the consistency value you will get as 4.0356 lambdas, right? Now, remember, if you are getting lambdas, that is lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda 4, which is the lambda max? That is the maximum lambda max value is 4.0366, right? Remember the relation. Now, again, this 4.0 lambdas you are getting, and if this type of value is coming close to the order of the attribute, how many orders we have? We are having 4 attributes, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4 attributes, design attributes we are having, and the lambda value is also 4.0, very close to the order of my decision matrix. So not the decision matrix, rather the number of attributes. So if it is close to 4, then whatever exercise we have done is good, right? It is very close to the number of design attributes. If suppose I am using 10 attributes, design attributes, then the lambda max should be close to 10. So 10 point something or 9.99 something. So if it is coming like that, okay, done. So whatever exercise so far you have done is correct. Whatever weight so far you have got is correct. Now what is left out? Simply what you have to do, you have to refer. Now a Sardis table is also referred for that matter. Somebody was having some problem like, okay, what to do, how to get the this thing, CR ratio. So before CR, you see this one. For number of design variables, say if it is 4, then you have to consider this value 0.9. This becomes max, lambda max minus n divided by n minus 1, where n is the number of attributes. And this is how you are getting the CIS 0.06. Now 0.06 is this value. How you got CI? How you got CI? CI you got using this relation, lambda max minus n divided by n minus 1. N is what? N is 4. Number of design attributes. Lambda max is what? Which you have calculated. Now, you just substitute these values. You will get, and for 4 it is 0.9. So using these two values, 0.06 and the 0.9, right? 0.06 and 0.9, you will get another value 0.0677, which is far less than 0.1, which indicates that our this as per the Sati's reference table, we got that it is less than 0.1. So whatever weights we have assigned is good. Remember, need not to follow the Sati's table. Whatever weights you want to assign, and you calculate your optimal solution, because you are the better judge what weight to assign to which attribute. This is one of the simplest way. But if you want to get rid of that thing, that I do not want to apply my brain or my experience to it. Just I want that relative importance should come into picture. But still in that case also your experience will come into picture in the form of relative importance matrix. Now another interesting thing is that after doing this part is that the more you are the consistency ratio, the the minimum is the consistency ratio. Suppose you are having a consistency ratio of say 0.01, and then you again reconfigure this exercise and you get 0.0001. Then this 0.0001 will give you more better solution as compared to the consistency ratio which you got with 0.001, right? So the weights which you have further modified, and if you got a lesser CR value, then the weights which you have calculated in the second iteration will give you a better result, will give you a better choice. So this is the thing which is considered. Likewise, we are having different techniques, like technique for order preference by similarity to ideal solutions, and so many other things are there. So this is how I have covered. Right now, interestingly, what I have done so far, see how to calculate the weight. To calculate the weight, you use geometric mean, and then you add to the total geometric means and divide it by that. Whatever fraction you are getting is actually the weight. And remember, the sum of all the wj's, that is summation of wj, is always 1. So this is the most simplest one to calculate. This is the eigenvalue calculation. How you calculate? First you obtain A3, then you have weights, right? Now you see, this is there. This is the general description I have talked about, and this is the most simplest way of handling the multi-objective optimization problem. But you don't worry that okay, it is carrying so much of mathematics, and sir is saying still it is a simple one. Yes, it is a simple one. Why? Because just you take a piece of paper and whatever choice you want to make, let it be a choice of a bride or groom selection, as I have said earlier. Just have a lighter note. Suppose you are supposed to select. It's not only bride or groom. It's something like selection of any appliance, home appliance. I have talked about scenarios, configurations, right? And this is a production unit, so mechanical or civil people can also do it. And if it's a bride groom selection, for example, if you are a girl and you are in search of a good boy, and you should have some properties of that boy, you place them in the vertical column. Those are the properties. Objective 1, objective 2, it should have a good salary, should have good look, should have something, likewise some properties. And you are having some people in your surrounding, in your vicinity or proximity. Just you take the list, put some values which you have, and you assign some weights. Now the problem is, how much weight should I give to A, B, or C, or D? That depends upon the weight calculation. You do this exercise, calculate the weight, assign these to this, and definitely you will come up with one optimal solution, and you can select that groom or bride as per your choice. So it's not simply doing something good for the marriage selection, but for home appliance selection, for scenario designing, for all other, say, plot purchase. If you are interested in purchasing a house, so in which city you should proceed, what are the criteria you will take, like the space, the aesthetic design, or the city, whether it will be a metro one or a non-metro one. So just put those as attributes, and some plot numbers you are having. You have to do some exercise before that. You have to prepare a measurement table. You cannot simply decide without any exercise. You have to first of all do the exercise, prepare a table, and then you apply this mathematical formulation. You might have 10 or 100 or 1,000 choices, and out of 1,000 choices you have to select one choice. It all depends like how much search space you have explored. Based on that, you will get the best solution. If you have explored only 10 options, then you will have some optimal solution. If you have explored 1,000 or 10,000 or 1 lakh options, you have, if in your search space you are having 1,000 or 10,000 sample solutions, right? Then definitely you will have a better optimal solution which will be close to the global best one. Now the theory or the concept of global best solution and local best solution. You see, if you have come across or dealt with a search space having 10,000 solutions, then if you have finally through some algorithm you have selected one best one, that will probably will be really the global best one. Why? Because you have selected a very bigger search space, and with that choice, if you go to America, Australia, or anywhere in the part of the country or in the world, it will be well appreciated because the search space which you have selected was larger, and this the final choice which you have made through certain algorithm will definitely be appreciated by rest of the other people. But if your search space is small, you have selected only 10 alternatives, then okay, only limited people can appreciate your choice or selection. So it's all depends upon how much space has been navigated, right, or explored, and then accordingly an optimal solution will provide you or will decide whether it was a local solution or a global best solution, right? And all depends upon the mathematical functions which you have formulated, whether they are convex or not. Once if you are dealing with a convex mathematical function, definitely you will have a global best solution. What that means? That means the solution which will come out from the convex functions, dealing with the convex functions, will be only one best solution, will not have any other optimal solution, right? So that is the beauty of dealing with convex functions. So it's a separate convex optimization problem. Another thing is there. Now, quickly, whatever I have spoken so far, if I train, if I write a if I write a code, and if I place it or give it to a computational tool, then exercise will be very, very simple. In a fraction of a second, you will get the answer. So let me see. I mean, I have talked for 1.5 hours. Now let me share one MATLAB code. It won't run right now because it is not running on this terminal, but definitely, let me see where I was. And new share, and here I was, and this is, see, MATLAB code, right? Whatever I have done so far, I have showcased it here. Whatever matrix I was having here, see, this matrix I was having here, right? I was having 10 alternatives, and I have created a matrix of size. What is the size of the matrix? It is having 10 rows and 4 columns, right? Here it is 5, but technically it's 4 columns. So 10 by 4 is the size of my matrix. So just see here what I have done. So C, S, I, and P, and finally this is taken transpose, right? In vector form I have saved, then I have transformed it into A1 matrix, decision matrix. The transpose of this will be in vertical column, transpose, 4 attributes are there, and it's a decision matrix. Then for best value, very sorry, while I'm in showcasing you, I said that I1 is to minimize. I have showcased it as maximize. I am really very sorry. The first 3 objective functions were to minimize, and the last one was to maximize. But the approach remains the same, best value, and then finally I have to normalize, right? Best value के बाद में मुझे normalize करना है. मैं normalize किया. So I have normalized each such value, and after that I have, remember, for these 3 variables I did like this, but for the last one I did the ulta, because I was supposed to maximize this one, and this one I was supposed to minimize. The first 3 were supposed to be minimized, and the last one was supposed to be maximized. So I did the ulta, and then again I have normalized. Then I have taken the geometric mean, the 4th root of the product of the complete row. Remember, I hope you are able to locate this code and my mouse, right? And then finally I got the geometric mean. Now to calculate the weighted matrix, what I did, simply whatever GM is there, it's a vector. I have divided it with the total one. I got the fraction one. I have multiplied this with the relative importance matrix. I got this consistency matrix, and I have calculated lambda, which is nothing but the mean of all these calculations which I have done. And then consistency matrix, I have calculated. Here the order was 4 because design variables are 4. Lambda is L, and I will be referring it through the table. I got CR, so DC will be CI by CR, right? Here DC is referred, 0.0115 calculated one, and then finally, since it is less than 0.1, so whatever weights I have calculated through this exercise, this 29th instruction is
Sir,
good.
code is not visible.
My code is not visible.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Very sorry. Now is it okay?
Yes, sir. Now it's okay.
Okay, sorry. So is it okay? Product, geometric mean, and then finally, then I have to again repeat. I don't think it is required. Just you can just have a glance. It's a multi-criteria decision-making approach, MCDM or MADM approach. Table is generated, best value is calculated, it is normalized. Then finally, geometric mean is calculated, fourth root of the product of all the first rows, right? And likewise, geometric mean is calculated, lambda is calculated, final lambda max is nothing but the mean of CMN, and different lambdas were there. I have taken the mean. Now I have calculated CI, that is consistency index, it is like this. Then consistency ratio is calculated, referring to the Sartese table. Finally, I found this ratio DC, decision check, I am saying it, because it is deciding whether the weights which I have selected are correct or not. I have to check whether the weights are okay or not. So once I got that it is less than 0.1, it's done. So finally, this much exercise, like I mean from the instruction from 16 or maybe from the normalized value to up to this point, is just to check and verify whether weights which I have selected are correct or not. Right? After that, when it is done, then it's simply nothing but just multiply whatever weights you have calculated with the relative importance matrix for the complete matrix, that is 10 by 4. You are having how many elements? 40 elements. For 40 elements, you have to do the calculations. And then finally, you will have a score value. You will have how many score values? You will have 10 score values. How many score values you will have? You will have 10 score values. Right? And score matrix, how it is calculated? Weight into the first decision matrix. Whatever weights you have selected so far, you have to multiply correspondingly with the decision matrix, and you will get the fitness value. Each row will give you one fitness value, score function. So one design or one scenario, one configuration or one choice will give you one fitness value. Second value. Third value. And likewise, you have to do. And finally, see this one. Here, when you will multiply with the weights, finally you will get, for each row, you will have some value, score function, fitness value. Likewise, for second, you will have this much. For third one, you will have this much. And what you have to do now, finally, you have to finally look at the sixth column. And you have to rank it. Or just see which is having the maximum score function. Whoever is having the maximum score function, that particular scenario or choice or alternative, or what I would say, the design will be selected. And you can finally claim that, yes, this is the best design among all the 10 designs. Or design number 8 is the best scenario or topology which you have generated or created through your R&D exercise, through simulator or any other, for optimization problem, right? And this is how you can proceed. And this is all about. Likewise, we are having so many techniques. So again, coming back to the code, this is visible now.
Yes, sir. Visible.
So this is a simple one-page column. Now this matrix, how you will calculate? Through your exercise, your measurement, whatever field measurement you are taking. Suppose you are having some instruments and you are doing some research activity. You will prepare some table, isn't it? And whatever measurement table you are preparing, just transform it into a matrix form, and then let's allow this particular MCDM technique to apply. This is the most simplest one, right? But after that, you can deal with some other complex topologies also, and you can compare these two, but this will still have some weightage. Why? Because this solution you got through your field measurements, right? It's not a guesswork. It was exercised on a measurement report, and then finally you have got some calculations, some selection you have got. So this is how a simple a multiple objective optimization problem is transformed into a single objective optimization problem and through this methodology we have got some optimal solution. God knows, or it's up to your searching. If your search space is, you have searched the complete globe, then whatever solution that this particular methodology is giving will be the global best solution. But if you have not exercised or scanned or navigated the all possible solutions, then definitely you will have not the global best solution, but sub global best solution you will be having. That is called as optimal solution. So remember, for every optimization solution you must have some problem. Okay, we are talking about solutions, so we must have some problems. So if you talk about research scholar, research objectives, or PhD problem, the basic time invested is on the proper problem. You have to give 50 to 60% of your time on problem. Your problems should be genuine. You should be able to properly transform it into mathematical model. Then this will help you out. The rest part, that is of 50 and 60%, will do mind-blowing things for you. So this is how I would like to now conclude. Very sorry. I think I was supposed to talk only less up to 1 hour 30 minutes and be open for the discussions. But remember, this slide is the most important one for me, I think. I will zoom in.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, sir is open to the queries. All participants are requested to write down your queries in chat box. Sir, you can see the chat box also. There are some questions.
Okay, let me see, because I was not going through the chat box. Hide, self view, pin view. Let me locate first where it is. This chat box is located. Chat, 13 chats. Okay, let me see.
The first question is how we can resolve the difficulties associated with MOO.
How we can resolve the difficulties associated with the MOO. So multiple objective optimization problem is there. Like, I mean, the first difficulty is regarding dealing with the different objective functions. Their nature is different, right? Some, I mean, the kind of selection of objective functions will serve and solve your problem, right? These are nothing but design criteria, and how much nicely you have gone through the design criteria will help you to take a decision. For example, see, multiple objective problems. In case of multiple objective problems, the first condition is that the objective functions which you select, there are many objectives, right? Many criteria are available. When you will also go through the literature survey, you will have hundreds of criteria to design in and incorporate in your problem. But what happens, those, whether those 100 design criteria are independent, first thing is they should be independent. You will come across that, okay, one parameter is somehow connected with the 98th or 50th parameter, so let me drop that parameter, because you are having some mathematical relations, isn't it? This variable you can get by making use of 3-4 other variables, design variables. So the selection of design variables out of those, say, 150 or 10 variables, they might be interconnected or interdependent. If they're interdependent, then they will create some problem in the selection. That is the first problem in case of multiple objective optimization problem. So as you have said that what are the difficulties associated with the MOO? First one is the selection of objective function in itself. They should be independent. First criteria is they should be independent. So you will see that, okay, although many criteria are there, but while dealing with optimization problem, only say 4 or 5 objectives, you will find that they are really independent with each other. Although whenever you are applying this thing to any system or a communication system or a network, right, they will be somehow connected, right? But they should not be related mathematically. All right, because you see that they will play game in the relative importance matrix, and that then the whatever weight you are getting will be somewhat biased one, will not be the appropriate one. First is this one, that is selection of objective, right? Then second is the type of objective functions which so far you have selected out of that bigger space, whether they are convex in nature or not. You see, this is a deterministic approach. Here, I have not technically used the mathematical formulation. Remember, the standard optimization problem is what? You will have a mathematical function. right? You are having, for every objective function, you will have some mathematical relationship, right? One mathematical function, F1 associated with one objective, F2, F3, F4, F5. And once we say these are the functions, then we can plot them on graph. Suppose I wanted to get the minimum of all these functions, or some of them I want to minimize, some of them I want to maximize. So all these curves will be drawn on a plot, right? And the intersection point will be calculated. So the search solution or the search space or solution will be in the intersection part, right? So the selection of objective function, and then finally whether those functions are convex function or not. Because if they are convex one, then definitely you will have best solutions. Otherwise, you will have suboptimal solutions. Although they are the optimal solutions, but you won't get the global best one, which you can place or coin any other at any other higher level. Right. So this is there. The number of ICs depends upon the design value and its installations or not. Definitely that will be dependent on design. It was a case, an example like, okay, there is one designer or a designing team which has suggested, okay, like this, we have designed and we have got this as the result. Now they are claiming that you please take my design, select my design for final fabrication. But you are the engineer, you are the manager, you are the decision maker. You have to select whether I can take your design or not. Problem is that, remember a very important thing, any stupid person can come and design anything, whatever they want to design. But it's you have to take a decision. For you being a decision maker, you have decided 4 attributes. Please talk in terms of these 4 attributes. Whatever design you have, just you proceed. Whatever you want to fabricate, whatever you do, I am having my team. They will check the production, the number of ICs used, and the production unit, that is how many units they have produced in per minute. Okay. And my team will see that, okay, whatever measurement you have done is correct or not. After that, whatever my algorithm is there, I will check based on that. I know how much weightage is to be given to what, and accordingly I will do the selection. What is weighted linear combination? So whatever we have seen so far is a linear weighted combination, right? Whatever weights we assign, linear combination means what? Suppose if I am having W1, W2, W3, say up to WK. So in the condition of linear combination is that the summation of all these weights should be equal to 1. Okay? Then what are the best ICs can used in data processing systems in order to get the good results in less cost? It depends upon the designer. Ask the designer, I mean, how they have designed it, what kind of ICs they have selected, how many number of logical gates they are able to accommodate in the IC. All is dependent upon the design. It's the design issue, right? How this is useful in WSN. Of course, I have taken the example for the WSN only. Now here, if you talk about the WSN network, I have just now shared that how to give attendance. Cell is protected in the spreadsheet. Okay, this is also an optimization problem. You can handle it. I mean, how to give attendance. You can have best solutions for that. How this is useful in WSN designs. If you go through again the YouTube lecture of morning session, there sir was talking about some of the interesting parameters. I mean, design constraints, right? Objective functions, rather, I would say, right? So based on which you have to design an optimization problem. Constraints were there, performance metrics were there, right? So if you go through that lecture, you will come to know that, okay, these are the design attributes I have to take into consideration while making a WSN. Now, whatever WSN you are making using that particular knowledge, which you say and propose that is my WSN, which will perform better than yours one, then again, it's a topology which has been suggested by you. But how much throughput, how much jitter, how much end-to-end delay, how much reliability you are offering is to be compared with rest of the other designs, and let that decision to be made by the third party. So, but before exposing your design to the third party, you yourself can check. You may propose 4, 5 or 10 designs, and you can select the best one using this technique. And not necessarily be through this technique, you can use any other technique. Very popular technique. How, again, it's not related to me right now. So which one is, when is better, single or multiple objective function? It's a simple, good question, but the thing is like how you can handle it. Once I am having a multiple objective function, the best one is, since I am dealing with it, so let me transform it into a simple one and solve it. But if you think that, okay, now you can handle the complex functions, then no need to transform it into a single objective function. You deal with all the independent functions independently, and you use the soft computational tool, that is your computer, CPU, MATLAB, to handle the different independent functions. And you have to plot those independent curves. They could be linear, they could be non-linear. Somewhere you will be having some line, somewhere you will be having some curve, like, and then you have to see whichever is giving you the minimum value. Right now, I cannot showcase that particular thing here, but it's a good question. But it all depends upon the simplicity and complexity. Through the simplicity, you can quickly get the answer. But if it's a complex one, sometimes the functions will not give you the good results. So you can.
I think we have covered all the queries.
Yes. Dr. Anila ji, I want to ask whether this lecture is also available on YouTube.
Yes, sir. It is available on YouTube.
Okay. So any other query? If it is not, then.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for enlightening and stimulating presentation. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences. You have explained in a very simple way about the optimization process and models, and then multi-objective optimization techniques and difficulties associated with that also. And your session was so informative, and we are very thankful to you for accepting our invitation and sharing this interesting topic.
Thank you, wonderful.
Definitely, we will expect more sessions from you in future also.
Definitely, I am available right now in this COVID-19 situation. This is the only mode by which we can convey. Yes, I visited Jaipur, I visited Purnima also, visited Global Institute of Technology also, JEC also. One of my friend is there. Okay. And even I worked for some time in Global Institute of Technology, Sanganer, Pratapnagar.
Okay. Okay. Thank you again, sir, for your contribution. Thank you, sir.
So nice talking to you people. And if anybody is having any problem, please, quickly, I would like to jump to my last slide. You can note down although organizers will definitely share the details with you, but still, can you people see this one? No.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
So this is my email ID, and this is my contact number. I'm available on WhatsApp. And I also used to, actually right now I'm dealing with deep learnings and machine learning algorithms. There I'm applying some optimization techniques to artificial intelligence. And I also float some workshops in collaboration with, earlier it was Orange Research Laboratories, now it is MedBlocks from Hyderabad. So in near future, if you people are interested in, how to encode the things on a Python based language or any other coding scheme, and then finally get an RPI smart module, which can be used as an IoT module or IOV module, then we can really have a smart network, which is actually, for that also the major constituent is the WSN only. So it's the practical aspects of all those things. Let's see that those topics are discussed in near future. And right now for optimization techniques, I have intentionally considered this as the conventional or the classic approach. Why? Because I have gone through the schedule and I found that a lot will be talked about evolutionary approaches like particle swarm optimization and colony optimization. So many other things are there upcoming in day 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So I request all the audience to please connect to the workshop and please adhere to whatever organizers are saying, and just connect yourself and get the best of the best through this tough time, COVID-19. Thank you, Dr. Anila ma'am, and thank you organizers for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. And
it's a field
which can be applied anywhere across the globe. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Now there is an announcement for tomorrow. The session will be at 10 a.m. So join on the time, all the participants. And attendance link is given in the chat box. You can mark your attendance. Okay, so, thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I am leaving now. All the best to everyone.
You can leave, sir.
Okay, God bless you.
Thank you, sir.